daughters should not, I think, make them your responsibility.
But you see, Fanny, they are my responsibility. They're my sisters.
Half sisters, Mr. Dashwood, and provided for.
£1,000 apiece is not provided for. It leaves them a very strict life indeed.
I cannot, John, agree with you. Indeed, your thought of adding another 1,000 for each from your own estate can only be viewed as excessive.
It was my father's last request that I should assist his widow and daughters.
Well, it's my belief he must have been light-headed at the time. Otherwise, he would not have imposed upon me the idea of taking money from our own poor little boy.
He did not stipulate a sum, dear Fanny, but something must be done.
We are really before ourselves in packing before the Dashwoods arrive to take up residence, Mother.
They have a perfectly good home in London. I do not see why they must have ours. It is, mark my words, Eleanor, all the idea of that terrible woman, his wife.
It is John's home now, as stated in the will. It was your father's wish that the estate be kept together, as the Dashwoods have been settled in Sussex for generations.
But, Mother, well, where will we go? Tell me that.
I'm making inquiries, Marianne. We will settle well, you may depend upon it.
At a price we can afford.
Afford,
We have not, since Father's death, limitless means. Now, Marianne, there is no reason why both families cannot live quite comfortably here at Norland Park until a suitable situation can be found.
There are many reasons.
There is not, sister, a reason we cannot all be civil.
Well, John, let something be done.
Indeed.
But it need not be £3,000. Your sisters,
My sisters?
I'm sure, will marry well, and that money will be gone forever from our own poor little boy.
Well, I suppose he might regret the sum, should he have a numerous family.
Indeed.
£500 would still be a prodigious increase to their fortunes.
Beyond anything great. But, John, £500?
Well, I should not want to do anything mean. You know, it occurs to me it might be best to do something for the mother while she lives, rather than the daughters. £100 a year would greatly increase their comfort.
Perhaps, John. But then, if Mrs. Dashwood should live another 15 years, we should be completely taken in.
15 years? I should think not.
But if you observe, people always live forever when there is an annuity to be paid. I would not bind myself to anything, really.
Yes. Well, perhaps you are right, my love. They might only enlarge their style of living. A present of £50, now and then, when needed, might sensibly and amply discharge my promise to my father.
Splendid idea, John.
Marianne, have you seen Margaret?
She is in her treehouse, Mother.
Poor girl, leaving Norland Park is most of all difficult for her.
Well, we shall all find a comfortable arrangement, I am sure.
Undoubtedly. I wished also to introduce Fanny's brother, Edward Ferrars, who has kindly agreed to assist in our settling in.
Oh, a great pleasure, Mr. Ferrars.
The pleasure is mine.
May I present my daughters, Eleanor and Marianne. My daughter Margaret is...
In the treehouse, Mother.
A treehouse? Indeed, I should like to see that.
She is wonderfully intrigued with it.
As would I be.
Had you such a thing when young, Mr. Ferrars?
No. No, I did not.
Oh, perhaps you would show Mr. Ferrars, Eleanor.
It is not mandatory, sir.
I should like it above all things.
Would you care to see the house, Mrs. Dashwood?
I should, indeed. I think our things will appear to advantage in this room, John.
Well, perhaps he will accompany me.
Yes.
Well, I hope you will be a friend to Fanny, Marianne. We shall do well together, I am sure.
Of course. I must fetch something from my room.
John, you are needed to discuss arrangements.
I owe you many thanks for your kindness to Margaret during your stay.
A pleasure, really. I sometimes think myself best with very young people.
You do well with all, Edward. In your weeks here, you have quite charmed our family, young and not so.
I am ordinarily praised as unobtrusive. The word diffident I have heard applied. My mother longs to see me distinguished, to send me to Parliament. I believe I would prefer the treehouse.
And if not the treehouse?
I have always preferred the church. And that was never smart enough for my mother.
Your wishes, I think, are moderate.
I wish, much like everyone, to be perfectly happy. Greatness will not make me so. Fortunately for my mother, my younger brother Robert is more promising. I have not the turn for a great man. The gardens here, I think, are well arranged.
Yes.
Both the north and the south.
Well arranged, yes.
Good drainage, I think.
Drainage would be of great importance.
My conversation is quite disastrous, is it not?
I enjoy our conversations, Edward.
Really?
Each one.
I have not the knowledge of the picturesque, and while I shall offend you with my ignorance and want of taste should we come to particulars, I shall call hills steep, which ought to be bold, surfaces strange and uncouth, which ought to be rugged, and distant objects out of sight, which ought only to be indistinct through the soft medium of a hazy atmosphere.
Your conversation is far better than picturesque. It is surprising, which I prefer.
Is there no news at all of a situation for us, Mother? Well, Mrs. Fanny Dashwood is, at this moment, in the kitchens, replacing our plates with hers, having already done so with the linens. Really, it is unbearable.
Edward and I will be walking, Mother.
Oh, will you be long?
That, pleasantly, I cannot say.
There is, as I'm sure you have noticed, Marianne, an excellent reason for some little delay.
The growing attachment between Eleanor and Edward is what you mean.
I comprehend his merits and feel quite assured of his worth. His heart is warm and his temper affectionate.
And you are sure, beyond doubt, that Eleanor is drawn to him?
He's amiable, well-mannered, and the eldest son of a man who died very rich.
Must wealth always be mentioned? Is he not uninteresting?
Well, think clearly, Marianne. Eleanor cannot live on her interests. In a few months' time, she will, in all possibility, be settled for life.
But how will we do without her?
Oh, my love, it will scarcely be a separation. We shall live within a few miles of each other, and you will gain a brother, a real affectionate brother.
But there is something wanting. He lacks all that fire, all that spirit which at once announces virtue and intelligence. And besides all this, Mamma, I am afraid he has no real taste. Music scarcely seems to attract him, and though he admires Eleanor's drawings very much, it is not the admiration of someone that can understand their worth. He admires as a lover and not as a connoisseur.
Well, to be a connoisseur is not necessary to a marriage.
Eleanor has not my feelings, and so she may overlook it and be happy with him. But it would break my heart. Mamma, the more I know of the world, the more convinced I am I shall never see a man I can truly love. I require so much.
Oh, Marianne, you are not yet 17. It's yet far too early in life to despair of such a happiness.
You have been with Edward.
Yes,
You have picked a bouquet.
I have.
What a pity it is, Eleanor, that Edward should have no taste for drawing.
He does not draw himself, but he has great pleasure in seeing the performance of other people. I hope you do not consider him deficient in taste.
Oh, do not be offended, Eleanor, if my praise of him is not in everything equal to your sense of his merits. I have the highest opinion in the world of his goodness and sense.
The excellence of his understanding and his principles can be only concealed by that shyness which so often keeps him silent. We have been thrown in these weeks a good deal together, and I venture to pronounce that his mind is well informed, his enjoyment of books exceedingly great, his imagination lively, his observation just and correct, and his taste delicate and pure.
His taste?
His abilities in every respect improve upon acquaintance. True, at first sight his person can hardly be called handsome, until the general sweetness of his countenance is perceived. At present, I know him so well that I think him really handsome, or at least almost so. What say you, Marianne?
I shall very soon think him handsome when you tell me to love him like a brother.
A brother? Marianne, I do not deny that I think very highly of him, that I like him, esteem him.
Esteem him? Like him? Cold-hearted Eleanor. Use these words again and I shall leave you on the moment.
Excuse me for speaking in such a quiet way about my feelings. Believe them to be stronger than I have declared. Believe them, in short, to be such as his merit and the suspicion of the hope of his affection for me may warrant without imprudence or folly. But further than that, you must not believe. I am by no means assured of his regard for me. There are moments when the extent of it seems doubtful. Until his sentiments are fully known, you cannot wonder at my wishing to avoid any encouragement of my own partiality by believing or calling it more than it is.
But in your heart?
In my heart, I feel little, scarcely any doubt of his preference.
Then, sister, follow your
There are other
inclination.
things to be considered besides his inclination. He is very far from being independent. From Fanny's recitation of his mother's conduct, I am not disposed to think her amiable. She may not wish him to marry a woman who had not fortune or rank.
Are you really, sister, not engaged to him?
Sister, would I stay silent of such a thing?
Would you not?
Wonderful, delightful news! A relation of mine, Sir John Middleton, has offered us a small house in Devonshire on very easy terms. It's a cottage indeed, but he offers us everything shall be done to it that we wish.
He writes in quite a friendly style.
Truly, I cannot stand the misery of being my daughter-in-law's guest here another minute. To be removed from this beloved place would be less painful than to inhabit it with such a mistress.
Indeed, but the rent is uncommonly moderate.
Eleanor, would our removal unsettle any plans, or indeed, might I say, any hopes you might harbour?
None, mother.
But, Eleanor, what of Edward?
That, Marianne, only Edward can answer.
Oh,
Thus, I think it far better, as we are provided with a house, to inconvenience you no longer than it takes for everything to be ready for us to inhabit it.
Devonshire? Are you indeed going there, so far from us? And to which part of it?
I believe it to be 4 miles northward of Exeter.
But is this decision thought through? You are currently well situated here. Is this not undue haste?
John,
Is it not too small?
It is but a cottage, but I hope to see many of my friends in it. If my friends find no difficulty in travelling so far to see me, well, I'm sure I shall find none in accommodating them.
Well, but this is very vexing. To go such a distance as to prevent my being of any service in removing your furniture.
Oh, you need not be concerned there. It will all be sent around by water.
Oh, but surely...
I believe it is settled.
dear you, trees that shaded my childhood. You will continue the same, unaware of the pleasure or regret you occasion, and insensible of any changes in those that walk under your shade. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Barton Cottage.
It is nicely situated.
But small, and smaller than I thought.
Well, I'm well satisfied as to its size, and to add and improve is always a delight. But
Small.
in the spring, if I have a bit of money, we'll think about building.
If.
Ah, there we are. Had to steal the horses. Oh, Sir John Middleton, at your service. Barton Cottage, eh? Neat as a pin. Comfortable as an old well-loved chair by the fire. Tiled roof, sitting room 16 feet on each side of the entrance, kitchen and pantry to the back, all in the best of repair. 4 bedrooms, 2 garrets, and wonderful views, eh? Village of Barton over there in the valley, all nicely situated.
Oh, it's quite to our taste, Sir John. We are in your debt for your offer.
All possible of alteration, eh? Think of it. Once your things are about you, nicely arranged to your satisfaction, what pleasure it will be. As for the day in hand, Lady Middleton, whom you will greatly admire, insists on you dine with us this evening at Barton Park, not half a mile distant. She will put you quite straight about arranging the cottage.
Or perhaps this evening.
You shall join us without another word. Come on, come on. I've kept the carriages at the bottom of the path. Welcome all to Barton Park. Let me see. You've met Lady Middleton at the steps. Here is the Honourable Mrs. Jennings, her mother.
Delighted, a fine thing indeed, but, dear, you have 3 daughters.
Missing the littlest one.
Well, I hope you have not left your hearts in Sussex, for I shall have you married by Michaelmas.
Colonel Brandon, my particular friend and the best shot in Devonshire. Colonel, you see before you the family Dashwood.
Delighted.
Take note of the daughters, Colonel. Where's your youngest got to, Mrs. Dashwood?
Viewing of your horses, if you don't mind, Sir John.
Not at all, dear lady. I've often preferred horses to their masters. Now then, we're all met, and our evening before us.
I believe you will find the air excellent to the complexion.
The air, yes. Oh, I am very pleased to meet you indeed. You provide the neighbourhood with new life and interest. I myself have lived to see my 2 daughters respectably married, and now have nothing more to do but to marry the rest of the world. So, I shall begin with you, Colonel Brandon, since you have situated yourself with great care next to Miss Marianne. I believe it is your responsibility to show her the gardens. Go. We can spare you.
If it would give you any pleasure.
If it is not too damp.
Oh, a fine evening, dry as toast.
You are a good shot, then.
Middling only, but devoted to improvement.
There. You see, well begun.
What is well begun?
It would be an excellent match, for he is rich and she is handsome.
Is she?
Oh, you. Come, Sir John, until they call us to table, let us play a round of cards.
Marianne, I can't see why you think him so exceedingly ancient.
But at least, Mamma, you cannot deny the absurdity of Mrs. Jennings so clearly promoting a match.
It would be my wish to cease all contention and enjoy this glorious sunlight.
Colonel Brandon is old enough to be my father. And if he were ever animated to be in love must have long ago outlived every sensation of the kind. Really, it is too ridiculous. When is a man to be safe from such wit if age and infirmity do not protect him?
Infirmity? Do you call Colonel Brandon infirm? I can easily suppose that his age may appear much greater to you than to my mother, but you can hardly deceive yourself as to his having the use of his limbs.
Did you not hear him complain of rheumatism? And is rheumatism not the commonest infirmity of a declining life?
Marianne, it must seem a miracle to you that my life has been extended thus far.
Mamma, you are not doing me justice. Colonel Brandon is, of course, not old enough that his friends might be apprehensive of losing him, but 35. Matrimony.
Well, perhaps 35 and 17 had better not have anything to do with matrimony together. But should there happen to be a woman of 27 and single, there can be no objection to Colonel Brandon marrying her.
A woman of 7 and 20 can never hope to feel or inspire affection again. Well, in his marrying such a woman, therefore, there would be nothing unsuitable. It would be a compact of convenience and no marriage at all. To my mind, it would be a commercial exchange in which both wish to be benefited at the expense of the other.
It would be impossible, I know, to convince you a woman of 27 could feel love. But I must object to your dooming Colonel Brandon and his wife to the constant confinement of a sick chamber because on a cold, damp day he chanced to complain of a slight rheumatic feel in one of his shoulders.
But he talked of flannel waistcoats! And with me, a flannel waistcoat is invariably connected with all of the aches, cramps, rheumatisms, and all other species of ailments that afflicts the old and feeble.
Much to do, Mamma, with that which is not nonsense.
Mamma, on the subject of ailments, I am sure Edward is not well. Now, we have been here almost a fortnight, and yet he does not come. What else but illness could detain him?
What does Eleanor expect him?
She must do, surely. But the whole of their behaviours to each other has been so unaccountable. How cold, how composed were their last messages, and Eleanor's self-command is invariable. What sort of lovers are these?
Oh, there are many sorts of lovers, Marianne, besides those of your imagination.
I could walk such hills and see such vistas forever.
Be careful, sister, you will fall.
Can you believe our mother saying this weather was not tempting enough? How I love a showery sky and tumbling clouds. I could not stand the confinement of the house a moment longer. I rejoice, sister, I do.
We had best turn for home.
Truly, sister, there is no felicity in the world superior to this. Promise me we shall walk here at least 2 hours.
Your felicity, sister, will become a
A
deluge.
fine one! Glorious! We'll run home. Chase me. Oh! Oh!
Oh, Marianne. Marianne, have you hurt yourself?
My ankle, I think. Ah! Can you help me to stand?
Can you put your arm around my shoulder?
Ah! Oh!
Oh, you cannot walk then. It is at least a mile or so home.
Oh, you must leave me, I think, and seek help.
Of course I cannot.
May I be of assistance? Startled. Oh, forgive me. I could not help but see your distress. My name is Willoughby. I'm visiting a relative at Allenham Court.
Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood. We were walking for pleasure from our cottage.
Saw my people worse. I cannot leave you here to be drenched. May I?
Ah! Oh.
Young lady has sprained her ankle, I believe. I can deliver her safely home if you will allow me.
I would be much indebted, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Ah.
You have a horse or conveyance?
I have not, but the matter is a simple one.
Oh!
I will convey her.
Oh, Marianne!
walking with his dog, and he carried Marianne nearly a mile to our door.
And the gentleman's name?
Mr. Willoughby, residing at Allenham.
Willoughby? What, is he in the country? That is fine news. I shall ride over and ask him to dinner on Thursday.
Oh, what sort of young man is he?
That's good a kind of fellow as ever lived. Very decent shot, and there's not a bolder rider in England.
And?
What?
Oh, is that all you can say of him? What of his manners, his pursuits, his talent?
Well,
And his genius?
on my soul. As to all that, he's a pleasant, good-humoured fellow. And he's got the nicest little black bitch of a pointer I ever saw.
Who is he? Where does he come from?
Well, he has no property here, but he resides at Allenham Court when he visits the old lady,
Mrs. Smith?
to whom he is related, and whose possessions he will inherit.
Single?
And very worthwhile catching, Miss Dashwood. But Brandon will be jealous if you do not take care.
I don't think Mr. Willoughby will be incommoded by the attempt of either of my daughters to what you call catching him. It is not the employment towards which they have been brought up.
Saw the man dance a long evening last Christmas, never sat down a moment.
Pity indeed.
And up at 8 to ride to the hunt.
Exactly what a young man should be. His pursuit should know no moderation and leave him no fatigue.
Aye, aye. I see how it will be. You'll be setting your cap at him now. Poor Brandon. Aye, aye, you'll make conquests enough. All this tumbling about and straining of ankles.
I took the liberty of riding by to see if you were improved, Miss Dashwood.
I am, sir, but above all I owe you thanks.
You will not, I think, be seen dancing for at least a fortnight.
I would dance on one foot if I could.
I enjoy dancing above almost all things. May I? You reading the Mistress of Udolpho?
For the third time. You read novels. Most gentlemen think them a waste of a man's time.
Most gentlemen spend far too much time with their hands, though I admit to running fine ones. Let me not, to the marriage of true minds, admit impediments. Love is not love which alters, when it alteration finds.
Or bends.
Or bends to the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark, that looks on tempests and is never shaken.
It is a star to every wandering bark, whose worth unknown though his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out, even to the edge of doom.
If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Well, Marianne, I think you have done pretty well for one morning. You have already ascertained Mr. Willoughby's opinion on every conceivable matter. You have shared all you